What's up, everyone? Welcome to Bold Voices. I'm Angela Bell Camino. Thank you so much for being here and joining us this evening. I hope you will take part in the conversation in the chat. We love interacting with as many people as possible. If you feel so inclined, it would be great if you could share, repost the stream. We want to get as many people in here as possible to join in the conversation. And also, if you like it, please like it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on YouTube. Would be much appreciated. I am so excited about the guest tonight, and I will introduce her in just a second. But we have a vocal, influential voice in the firearms and women's self-defense space. She focuses on encouraging and supporting women, especially regarding self-protection and responsible firearm ownership. We just recently connected, and I'm excited to tell that story as well. So this has been great. Basically, she's a prominent Second Amendment advocate, certified firearms instructor, founder of We the Female, which is an organization focused on empowering women through firearms training and self-defense, a published writer as well, featured in Wall Street Journal, Washington Times, Town Hall, etc. That was just to name a few. And focuses on helping women understand firearms fundamentals and build confidence. Wow, the list goes on and on. But anyways, without further ado, so excited to introduce our special guest tonight. And guys, please interact, ask her questions. She's obviously a wealth of knowledge on this topic. We have Kerry Slone in the house, and we also have the one
Jay.
Jay, so mysterious.
Thanks for having me, and you make me sound way cooler than I am. I don't.
You did those things. You are those things.
I guess.
You are cool.
I guess. Thank you. I don't see it that way. To me, it's just part of the mission. And I mean, I'm not trying to downplay it or humble brag. That's not the intention. But it is, as people that are out there and doing things, sometimes you forget how much you've accomplished because you're so focused on the end goal that you forget to take a moment and look back at what you've done. And then as you're reading it, like, wow, I guess I've,
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's like you're so in like the moment, like, you're at where you're at now, and sometimes you forget. Like there's parts of my life that I'm like, did that really, because it feels so long ago, or like such a different chapter of your life that you're like, was that really part of my life and I barely remember it? But yeah, I think it's so important to reflect, and really kind of appreciate and recognize and give yourself props for all the things, that you've worked through, fought through, accomplished, because it isn't easy to do all of those things. So
it's not, and especially as a female in a male dominated space. And that's a challenging, that can be a challenging component of it as well. And to, let me be clear, the space has definitely opened up in the best way possible for more women, but we still have some hurdles to get over.
Yeah. When did you, I'm going to ask way more about this, but when did your journey kind of like with all of this, I guess everything I sort of just listed, how long, like how many years did this span over?
It's been about 7 years. It was, I owned a day spa and ran an apprenticeship, and I'm actually a commercial real estate investor. And that was my past life. So I was living my best life, working in my day spa, doing some grassroots advocacy for gun rights and self-defense for women, because I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'm the classic textbook, the system failed me. My ex was, originally arrested on felony charges because my face was all bloody. That was their criteria, and a DUI. And the female prosecutor dropped the DUI that they had him on that. And well, they had him on the domestic violence too, because I was willing to testify against him. And she said, "Are you sure you want to do that? Most victims don't testify against their abusers," which is true. Whole other conversation why, right? That's its own thing. But they gave him a diversion agreement, and then he stalked me after that. And so fast forward several years later, a gun control law, I lived in Washington State at the time, a gun control law had passed up there at that time in 2018. It was during the midterms, Trump's first term, and into the midterms, there was a gun control law at the time passed in Washington State that was considered one of the most restrictive at that time. Of course, we've far surpassed that in many states, especially Washington. But I spoke about this law and I said, for those of you that just voted for this, you just put me in a position, and I'll tell you what it was in a minute. But there was a lot of stuff in the law. But you just put me in a position where I may not be able to buy a gun to defend myself from the guy is stalking me on and off. Like I never knew, like it would go in waves, right? Which is common with some stalking situations from abuse, right? They get a girlfriend and they'll leave you alone, and then they come back and bug you. It's kind of a thing. But
oh my gosh,
yeah. And I said, you just put me in that position, and they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I said, yeah, you didn't read the bill. And they're like, we did read them. Like, you didn't. You read the summary because of all of the convoluted stuff. And for those of you, you too, as well as anybody listening, if you've ever tried to read legislation, it's intentionally hard to read. They make it hard to read because they don't want you to, and then they can just manipulate you with what they want to say. Now, ironically, the only thing that was literally written in clean, plain English in this entire bill was listed at the bottom of it. And to paraphrase it, it essentially said, when you sign your 4473, and I know, Angela, you now are officially know what that is when we talk about that. For those of you that don't know what a 4473, it is the federal background check that is done for firearm purchases. The same thing that anti-gunners will tell you doesn't exist. Because you can just go buy them like you can oranges at Walmart. And I'm like, I'd like to know what Walmart you're buying.
That's true. I can speak to that. I totally had a background check when I got mine.
You have to go through a background check, and it's a federal one now in Washington State, and other states as well. But this bill passed a Washington State background check. So there's two you have to pass in Washington State. But when you sign that 4473, it waives your medical record, and they can look at your medical record. And as a domestic violence victim survivor, at that time, I did what I was supposed to do, and I went to therapy, and I have those 4 magic letters on my medical record, PTSD. And, you and I both know when we say that they're going to deny somebody the purchase of a firearm based on what they see in their medical record, they're not looking for a broken leg, right? Now, oftentimes when we're dealing with PTSD, and I know Jake can probably speak to this as a veteran, PTSD is usually associated with veterans. Nobody thinks about PTSD being associated with survivors and things, but there are several studies out there that show that DV victims are actually one of, like, arguably the second. Obviously veterans hold that, unfortunately hold that title, but we were up there. Yep. And they were mortified that they voted for it. And I said, well, you voted for it because you believed the bullshit that you were told instead of reading the bill. A. B, you didn't understand what that meant. So that post went viral. If you know who Coleon Noir is. So I blame him every time I see him at events and stuff. I'm like, I blame you for this. You're the reason I'm here. Because he shared my story about that. And fast forward a couple years, I became a firearms instructor. I found a need for doing trauma-informed firearm instruction, which is what I do. And here I am. And now I travel around. I live in my van down by the river. It's an age test. Gen Xers out there.
I know it. I'm a Chris Farley fan. I love those SNL days. Chris Farley, Adam Sandler. Yes.
So I take everything with me. The guns, ammo, everything that students need. And essentially I live in this van. I travel around the country, and I remove barriers for firearm ownership by providing the classes for free or for $20, depending on where I'm at, as well as providing financial aid for women that can't get to one of our classes. So I shouldn't say every so often, it happens more often. I unfortunately wish it did. We'll get emails from ladies saying, hey, I need training. I can't get to one of your classes. Then we will find an instructor in their area, and we will pay the instructor, because the instructor should get paid. Oftentimes they're good with me. If they're an abuse survivor, they're great, and they do it, but we don't deny anybody financial aid or the free training. We do try to prioritize domestic violence survivors, single mothers, and elders, people that are disproportionately more in need of those firearms just because of their circumstances. But that's it. So that's what I do. And the last 2 years, I have taught, I'd have to look at the exact number, but right around 500 women in nine 9 states, and we've given away approximately $20,000 in financial aid.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
That is
and
so
I'm going to Florida to train Angela.
I know, right? So we didn't even, people are like, what? For people who don't know, they're like, what? The Bold Lib has a gun now? But no, first, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. I had no idea that that was the reasoning, like about your personal experience. And I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's so helpful for others to know. Makes complete sense. I can't imagine how awful and terrifying, and probably something, I don't know if you know this as well, but my background is actually in mental health. So all of that with trauma, and I also had a lot of clients who were sexual assault. Like I worked with a lot of college students, and unfortunately sexual assault and all of that is, so I have worked.
I didn't know that about you. So you totally get it then. You understand that.
Yeah. So I love learning that because that's,
sometimes we have to help women understand that their lives are worth defending before we teach them how to defend it.
And I think I'm so glad that you're here to tell your story, because I think that people get so caught up in this like this one way of thinking, and they just think of guns a certain way. So it's so important to hear your story and how empowering and necessary for your safety all of that was for you.
Yeah. And in that situation, I was so angry that the system had failed me. And I remember when I left from his arraignment, because I showed up to his arraignment. And let me be clear, I wasn't afraid of him after this happened. And so this was on Thanksgiving that it happened. And so of course his arraignment was 4 days later because it was over the holiday weekend. So you can imagine what I looked like, by that point, right? Because he beat the hell out of me. I mean, when I say literally head to toe, it was literally head to toe, both black eyes. My face was all swollen. He had actually fractured some of my teeth. So my mouth was all, the impact made my mouth. I want to be honest. I'm not trying to, right? I want to be clear about that. I don't want to manipulate any facts. He hit me so hard that when my mouth went like this, it made my teeth fracture. I had fingerprints around my throat where he picked me up and threw me around the room. And so you can imagine what that looked like by the time his arraignment showed up. And, I'm not dumb. I went in with no makeup on at all, because I wanted him in the court to see what he had done.
Yep.
And the female prosecutor still dropped that. And even though I was willing to testify against him, and then after the arraignment was over, the sheriffs that arrested him came out, and they said, do you have a place to hide for 3 or 4 days after he's let out? Because that's when we see the chances of domestic violence significantly increasing, which is a whole other conversation. And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer with it, but that's a whole thing, right? Like, and when we talk about gun control, I want to keep this short because I don't want to dwell on this for y'all, but you see a lot of that. Well, a woman abuse victims 5 times more likely to die if a gun is in the home. It's rarely that she's ever killed by a gun. And you notice they never say that. That's because when she's still in the home, it's about control. It's not about killing her. So if he does kill her while she's still in the home, it's because he's hit her, or she's fallen and hit her head, or he uses a blunt object. It's not premeditated with a gun, right? Interestingly enough, that study, and I know y'all have seen that, we've all seen it out there. What they don't tell you, it's a 35-year-old study that's outdated, but also the next paragraph says, however, a survivor that has moved out and is living on her own is more likely to survive if she has a gun. But they don't tell you that.
Yeah.
Of course they don't tell you that. Why would they want to tell you that? That doesn't help their narrative to use domestic violence survivors for gun control, right? Because the 2 biggest pawns for gun control, children, right? It's always the kids. What think about kids? Domestic violence, and then you can kind of, in terms of red flag laws, you come up the backside with veterans. Can be an issue. And, I'm big, obviously I'm very fiercely anti-red flag law as a domestic violence survivor. I know you brought up the Wall Street Journal article. I don't know if you had an opportunity to read it, but I actually defended a domestic violence survivor and his right to due process in that as a domestic violence offender, excuse me.
Wow.
And it was the Rahimi case, the one that went to the SCOTUS and of all of the people that we wanted representing us at a SCOTUS case or a gun case, this dude was not it, because he was a piece of shit, this guy. But like most red flag laws, their initial petition that's done is what's called ex parte. And for those of you that don't know what that means that Jay got pissed at Angela, right? And he goes in and he's like, this bitch is crazy. She's not stable. I need and she's a danger to me and I don't feel safe, blah, 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 all of whatever the documents are. And they can issue what's called an ex parte restraining order and have her gun seized. Now, right, the theory is that that's supposed to be a cooling off period and you can go back in and then you can, prove, then you have to prove, the burden of proof is on the person being accused. So much for innocent till proven guilty.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So that you are in fact mentally stable. So, but you have anywhere from 2 weeks to God knows how long before they get you back into court, where you could be vulnerable if you followed the law and you've surrendered your firearms. So, and that was the case with this guy. He was issued a domestic violence restraining order. His guns were seized. Weird. He got guns again because it's almost like if they want a gun, they're going to get one anyway, right? So, and then he was arrested again. So his conviction wasn't for domestic violence. He had never been convicted of domestic violence, even though they had the evidence. They knew that was the case. This whole case was centered on the fact that he was in possession of guns while under a domestic violence restraining order to not have guns. And so it violated his due process. And I defended that.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can imagine, it must, I don't know, I hope that it's been so rewarding for you to have helped so many people. And one of the things I want to ask eventually, maybe not right, but is just some of the highlight standout moments that have been the most, because I imagine you have so many personal stories of working with mostly women specifically, and how empowering that has been for them. It's been interesting for me and Jay, sorry, you have
Jay. Hey Jay, did you want to join the girls in the conversation?
You can just tell we're so excited about this topic and the passion around this. But Jay, I know you started telling me about a lot of people who've asked you for assistance and help, and even you were saying young women. That's so interesting also.
Yeah, I get approached on a regular basis just because, just being a veteran or whatever. And I have a lot of guns. I'm a gun enthusiast. I hunt. And I conceal carry, and both of my kids also carry. One of the things that I like to do is I like to, educate them on the things that they're not thinking about, right? The different safeties, where you're going to actually carry it, I talk them through the things that they're not thinking about, because I'm very practical in how it's done. And it's something, that you're probably never going to use in your life. And thank God for that. But the thing is it's nice to know that you can defend yourself if the situation arises. And so for me, I love sharing that with people because they feel more confident. And even me as a male, there came a point in my life where I decided that I needed to carry a gun to protect myself. And for me, it was, being a young father, having 2 toddlers and my ex-wife, I wanted to, I just decided that I need to have a gun, because we lived just outside of Nashville, and East Nashville is, kind of a sketchy place or whatever. And so for me, that was the point where, I was like, you know what, I need to have a gun. If something goes down or whatever, I need to be able to defend them. And, it comes in different forms, some through abuse, some through other things, but for me, I really love sharing that with other people so that they can empower themselves and feel protected. It's such a cool feeling when somebody approaches you with that, because I will never not take the time to explain that to them. I love doing that.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. And with women in particular, oftentimes the way we get to them isn't necessarily for themselves, right? Culturally, inherently, biologically, arguably, women tended to lean into martyrdom a little bit more and like sacrifices and things. And so oftentimes I've seen this in my classes where women themselves, especially we call them Granny Oakleys, our elders. I teach a lot. Somehow I've landed in like this space where I teach a lot of elderly women. And I use that term carefully because I'm getting close to that age, right?
It's listening. They're
my husband is mortified because he got that he got the senior discount the other day at Lowe's. I was like, you took it, didn't you? He goes, well, hell yeah, I took it. But and he's younger than I am. But so I was teasing him about that. But I somehow hit that niche, which I'm okay with. But I've had one in particular. One of my favorite stories was one of our Granny Oakleys. And she was like, well, I don't know that I could shoot somebody, can't I just shoot him in the knee? Which, again, whole other conversation why we don't do that. That's actually a training lesson that we give. But I looked at her and I said, because she's like, I'm old, blah, blah. And I said, would you do it for your grandchildren? And she leans over the table. She was sitting in the front row and everybody was behind her. She leans in and she says, I can kill them. And all of the ladies behind her were like, yeah, right. That's what they want to hear. And I said, so why wouldn't you do that for yourself so that you can be there next time? It's all it took. She came back to my level 2 class and she was drawn from a holster and she was going at it. And I mean, she's actually where that's where Granny Oakley was from her, because it took, talking about the children, right, to get that. And that's oftentimes, that's what happens, like he was saying, like once it was these kids, and that's oftentimes what really is the impetus for firearm ownership, particularly for women. And I want to comment here. You've got a comment over here I see in the chat. Let me before I pop off about it, let me put my glasses on to make sure I'm reading it right. A little 38. Yeah, 38. Look, if you followed me for any period of time, you know that there's there's this joke, I hate revolvers. I don't hate revolvers. However, revolvers, especially little 38s, are not the best gun to teach women to shoot with. They're incredibly painful. They have long trigger pulls. The grip is a little awkward. I'm not discouraging somebody from owning a revolver if they want to, but I've literally had dudes, and I know Jay, I can't wait to see. I know you'll get it because as a woman, but Jay is somebody who's a gun enthusiast. I've literally had dudes say that women just need revolvers because they're not as mechanically complicated. So essentially, women are too dumb to understand how to operate the gun that you just purchased. Nice. And I'm wow. And this still exists, right? This is still, this is a real thing. The dude wasn't being funny. He was serious. This is still a mentality that we as women have to fight with in this space. Jay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's a game of seconds, right? You have literal, so quick, and it's got to be something that you're comfortable with. It's got to be something that you can get to quickly,
right? Because
you have seconds, and most people are not even going to aim.
That's right.
When they are in this situation,
they're not ready for that conversation, sir.
Yeah. So most people will not aim because the adrenaline is so high, and it's like I describe when you first go into combat. You train, you fire at the ranges, you do these scenarios, you go through all this. And when you get in the situation where you can actually pull the trigger and shoot at an enemy combatant, it is so surreal that a lot of people freeze.
Yeah.
They absolutely freeze because you cannot believe that you're at the moment that you've been training for sometimes years for. Yeah. And it's very awkward. And so, that's where your training comes into play, though. Mm-hmm. You just muscle memory, you're gonna use the things that you've been trained to do. And so these are the things that I try and educate people. I'm not a firearms instructor. I'm not I was in the military, but I don't do that.
Very different world.
Yeah, but I try and educate people on those things, because that's the things that they're not thinking about. They're just like, oh, that's a nice looking gun or whatever. Yeah. I could see myself carrying that or whatever. And what caliber should I get? And the thing that I say is it should be something that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable carrying a 22, if it's a 22 that's good, then carry that 22, right? If it's whatever, because you're going to put rounds on target with it if you're comfortable using the gun and you're trained to use it.
And then I tell ladies, just stay out of Facebook groups, stay off YouTube, stay until you have more base knowledge yourself, especially out of or on X. Good God, I'm an instructor. I've been one for over 5 years now. I'm a training counselor. I train people to become nationally certified firearm instructors for USCCA. And they still talk to me. The good news in this whole thing is that I've been being so vocal and then like fighting back, because a lot of times women won't fight back. They'll just stay quiet and they're like, these guys are idiots, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm the fighter. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. But what it's done is it's brought forward an awareness to the online gun community, or at least in part, of how women are actually talked to. So I get a lot of like, God, you really do get crap. There was a friend of mine and I, who's he's a gun. He's more of even a collector. He's doesn't even shoot as much as he should, but he owns a lot of guns because he likes to buy them. And he and I did a test one time and we put out the exact same post. It was about 22s, verbatim. And the way they talked to him and the way they talked to me was, he goes, you're right. I was like, I told you, like, because I'm a woman, we're not talked to the same way. And I love that you talked about that, what you're comfortable with, because one of the things that women will get, I shouldn't say just women, men will get it too, is all the firearm experts come out, just like everything, right? On the internet, everybody's a freaking expert and everything. But with firearms, the armchair ballistics experts are wild. And, they know 22s don't have stopping power. I'm like, well, really, can I shoot you with it?
Right.
Oh, it's weird. Nobody's ever taken me up on that.
Yeah. Well, that's the gun nuts, and God bless them, because they're cool and they but they'll
bless their little hearts.
Yeah, but I mean they're gonna coach you to buy a Desert Eagle, like they're gonna coach you to buy the biggest gun, and you really
actually they tell women to get revolvers or Ruger LCPs. That's the two most common ones, which are two of the most painful firearms to shoot.
Yeah, because the LCP is so small, and it's the recoil is in such a small gun too. But
it's a terrible gun. It's all polymer plastic. You know who loves that gun, by the way? Military aren't Mac, Tim Harmson. He loves that gun, and so we have this banter between us. He keeps one in his boot. He's like, I love that gun for my boot. And I'm like, yeah, for your boot, but not to be sold to a woman as a primary. As their primary self-defense tool. And sure enough, as soon as I bring them out to the range, I let them shoot like what you've got or something bigger. I'm like, hey, so ladies out there that are listening, size matters. The bigger the barrel, the less you're going to feel the recoil. Just so you know, size matters. Pick the biggest one that you like and that you'll actually carry.
Yeah, I'm a huge F&N fan.
I'm an FN fan. I like FN. I've got a 509, but she's a little big for me to carry in my leggings. She's a big gun, Angela. The FN 509 is a full size 17 round gun. I've got a 365 over here on my table. I was doing a video with. I love living in Georgia. I live in Georgia. I don't have any kids at home. I got guns laying everywhere. And it's I was doing a video about our most popular guns brought to class, and one of them is the 365. You have the Rose version, which was my friend Lena's her vision to bring women in, and
I kind of heard when I picked up the gun, because I didn't, and I heard this, like the guys that were working there were, oh, this is beautiful. Like they hardly ever get them. I mean, I was very fortunate to get this beautiful gun, which I have a picture of that I'll show. But I heard that story and I didn't realize that was your friend. But
we may or may not be discussing doing some stuff together at the beginning of it, because her schedule is the way it is. It'll be a year before we can do it. But we've talked at SHOT Show, which was just a few weeks ago, and I did some training with her down in Florida, actually at WAFT. I got to do some hand-to-hand training with her. She is truly one of the kindest gals. But I mean, look, I don't know if you know her background. Like her mother is from the Smith & West, like one of the families of Smith.
Wow.
Like, she's like, her whole family is what we call like gun industry royalty.
Okay.
And she didn't get where she's at because of her family. I mean, could some opportunities maybe because her dad is a world record holder for shooting? Yeah, possibly. But she can shoot. Like it's not like she's not propped up just because she's a chick and this is her parents. No, she's like what, a 10 or 11 time world champion shooter, championship shooter. So no, she can flat out run a gun, but she's also an amazing human. And I adore her. She's good people.
Well, I'm so glad I have this gun. So a little bit about that story. But
by the way, they're like potato chips. You're not done. You've got one, and they're just going to keep going now.
That's what the guys in the store were also saying. They're like, he was like, I have an addiction. Like, it's like I want to eat. So he's like, I might need
one or two a week.
Do you?
Yeah. I thought you were joking when you said that. 1 or 2 a week.
I'm blessed to be in the industry, and because now my own gun collection is different, right? But because we provide the firearms for our students, I'm blessed that people will donate them to us, or I can buy them at cost. So I have that event. Now, if I were to ever sell my because I'm a nonprofit, the guns would go with the nonprofit, right? They don't belong to me. They belong to the nonprofit. But I'm blessed to be in that position. But I got to tell you, there is a gun that I'm actually considering spending my own money on, and that's full price, and that's not usual. And it's the Glock 19 that I've got one over here. It's a full size. But it's painted like a Holstein cow, and the trigger is pink like an udder. And I'm like, now I've got one Cerakoted gun that's red. There's a whole other backstory to that. And I actually teach with it because the eye naturally follows what I'm doing because it's color. So I do teach with that. All the rest of them are black. I'm not big on Cerakoting my gun, but I'm not going to lie, that Holstein. Pretty cute.
That's funny. Before I forget, I just wanted to say, Jay, what you were saying about, being in the moment. We've sort of talked about before with all of the ICE stuff and law enforcement stuff. I have a friend who's a law enforcement officer for Orlando Police Department. And I remember I've known him a very long time when he started out in the force. And I heard those stories, it's like he had the training. And then when you're in that moment, like, so I think that's such a great point to bring up. And, we always say those things that people are like the whatever Monday morning quarterback kind of situation where it's like, well, this is what I would have done. And like all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the adrenaline, I think anyone can put themselves or has experienced situations that really shake you up. And, so yeah.
Have you gone out to shoot at all? Have you done any shooting?
No. Never? I have not. No.
Have you ever shot a gun?
No.
I'm so excited to come down and help you. So we see it in class a lot. And when I do post things and I'll get stuff like, oh, you need to change your stance. It needs to be a weaver. It needs to be an isosceles. It needs to be this. And I tell my students, and I show my students, actually neither one. If you really want the perfect, to me, it's immaterial really to qualify this statement. But if you really want, it's actually a hand-to-hand fighting stance is probably, which is kind of a modified weaver, right? Because of how your body's positioned and you hold your weight. All that to say, I tell my students in my class, do you think when you're digging through the dollar bin at Target, looking for stocking stuffers for the kids, that you're going to give a shit where your feet are? No. The reason we teach you to draw from a holster and we teach you to drop that elbow, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is chances of you getting up here are probably pretty slim, right? Even like Jay was saying, like, you're not going to get on target, just the adrenaline stuff. Timing, right? Do you know how long it takes for somebody to cross 30 feet? Not long, right? And my husband's 6'3", it takes him less than a second. So the chances of you actually getting up and on are slim. Did you see the Nick Irving? He's another guy I know who I adore. And Nick Irving, he's an author, but he was a sniper, real life sniper, and cool dude. I met him through Zeke Stout when they had that TV show, and somebody interviewed him and they were asking him and I'm not getting into the rights and wrongs of whether the shoot on Renee Good was justified or not. Okay, I'm not. We could spend 2 hours talking about that, right? So that's not it. What I want to talk about, which is absolutely accurate, is everybody's like, well, he only had to fire one shot, and I'm like, have you ever actually shot anybody in a high stress situation? Probably not. I've had to draw my gun and I didn't have to shoot it, and time slows down. Like what happens? So, and he said 3 shots. He goes, that's about right. Because that's right. Because you keep firing, you don't even know, right? Chances are that cop probably didn't even realize he fired 3 times in the heat of that moment. It's very possible.
No, that's a really, really good point. People don't really think these things through, and they've never been in a situation like that. So it's so hard for people to say. Bobby, I see you. Thank you for all the comments.
We hear you, Bobby.
Bobby,
Berettas are good.
I don't know if Jay saw this, but Bobby was proud that he made you smile finally. I'm like, finally, Jay's never smiled in here before.
I smile all the time.
Maybe not when Bobby was here. Maybe not.
I just try and be respectful. I try and give the whoever's speaking the full attention. I'm just,
to be fair, there we go. He's got two women sitting here. Is he really going to get much? Two women that are loving having a good conversation about guns, and you can, yay, Jay. Sit in the back, cheer us on, right?
And Bobby also wants a Beretta Auto 9 molded, like RoboCop,
like I gotta see what he's talking about. Molded. I'm not sure what he means by molded.
Modded.
Modded.
He wants an FRT.
He wants it modified. So look, speaking of like older guns and stuff, I got to go shoot a FN. Speaking of which, Jay, have you seen that FN 75 that they've come out with?
Mm-mm.
So they FN has reintroduced they're calling it the 75 Legend, and it is the exact. Basically, what they did is they dusted off the blueprints for the model that they made in 1975, right down to the flathead screws that hold it together. And I got to shoot that at SHOT Show, and man, I was on at 25 yards with iron sights like this, baby. It was. She's pretty cool.
Yeah, FNNs are my favorite. FNN, the FNX 9 and 45 are the best gun. That's what I carry. I just love it. It just feels good. It just fires well, super accurate. But Angela, you bought a nice gun. Like
I'm gonna show everyone a picture.
And the 365, which she has a version of the 365, that is the #1 concealed carry firearm in the United States.
Wow, that is a fun fact that I didn't know.
It is consistently the #1. Now, even with all of SIG's back, if you're in the industry, there's a lot of scandal around SIG right now, but even with that, it is still the #1 selling, because most people outside the industry don't know about this kind of stuff, contrary to what the industry, because the industry thinks it's its only universe. But that is you've got a solid gun. You're going to have little to no, if you maintain it properly, you're going to have little problem with it. But just for S&Gs, as we say, shits and giggles, when I come down to work with you, I'll bring several, and you can shoot some other ones so that you can just play with a few and see what you think. So you can see what your next purchase will be.
You're so nice. So I have to tell now our connection. This all came, my story, our connection, this whole story came about very recently. I had posted something joking, well, not joking, but just saying, like, I was supporting voter ID, and does this make me MAGA now? Because that's what everyone's saying. No matter, I'm MAGA now, no matter what. So like,
because everything is black and white. It's either right or left. Nothing is in the middle.
Doesn't make sense. So I don't get it. I don't know why we're not all on the same page with that, but whatever. So people are coming at me about all these things, of course. And so I was like, does this make me MAGA now? And the amazing Harvey's Pistol and Pawn, guys, you got to go check them out. Follow them at Harvey's Pistols. They're in Knoxville, Tennessee. Offered to help me get my first gun. And I thought they were joking, but they were not joking. Yeah. So, and then people were tagging Kerry.
A lot of people.
Amazingness. And it's the perfect connection. And Kerry was so sweet and DM'd me, reached out, and was like, I want to help you. And like,
right in her DMs.
I know, in the nicest possible way. Like, and I love it. Because to be honest, I never saw myself as a gun owner. Like, I never thought I would have a gun. I'm kind of scared about it. That's been traditionally where I was at. But I love that. I think it's so important for people to be open and to learn and grow and evolve. So I'm excited about that. And I can really see, especially now hearing both of your stories, how empowering it can be. So it's really kind of shifting my view, but it's a lot of stigma, because my friends right now around me are like, what? Like, you have a gun?
You're the ideal candidate to
100%.
train, because you've never fired before. A lot of people have bad habits that they've fired guns before, or they weren't properly trained or whatever. They bring a lot. Like I've been training people my whole adult life, and you're the perfect candidate for it.
You really are, and that's why I'm excited. And I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely am willing to drive the 5.5 hours. I can go to Redneck Disneyland, aka Gatorland. By the way, love Gatorland, have season pass. But also an excuse to go to Gatorland. But also knowing that, and I want to make sure that you have a positive experience, and B, that you're taught properly, because there are a lot of really, really bad instructors. And look, I love Florida, but there's a lot of I've run into a lot of bad instructors all over the country, but Florida, man, there's some issues going on down. I don't know what's going on down there, but and I want to make sure that you're set up for success, because if a person, especially a woman, has a bad experience the first time she shoots, it can often turn her away from it altogether, or more concerningly, turn her into a gun control advocate. And so we don't want either of those things. And I'm like Oprah, everybody gets a gun. I mean, I'm, as a domestic violence survivor, you get a gun, you get a gun. I am so controversial with my attitude, which to me, I don't understand why it is, but whatever. I believe that a convicted felon that successfully serves his, his sentence should have his rights, even violent ones, right? Because they're going to get the gun anyway, whether they want it or not. If he's too violent to be back out on the street to be able to defend himself,
right,
then he should be kept in prison. Or in the case of like rapists, chimos, whatever, like once they're convicted, just take them out back and right. I mean, like we could be saving millions, and by keeping them locked up, just take them out back and burn them,
Right.
But so I'm very controversial that way. But I also know that if we do not set women up for success with the right approach, with teaching them how to use those firearms initially, we don't just set them up for failure, but we can set them up to become our proverbial enemy, and we don't want that. And I'll tell you, it's interesting, the difference, because I teach all over the country, the perception of guns and the fear of guns, depending on where you are. Blue states, obviously, people are more afraid of them.
Yeah.
However, the women, I teach a lot of liberal women in Washington State. I do. And their mentality toward the gun is very different, and it's just interesting. It's interesting to see. Whereas in the South, it's like,
say that again for the people in the back, because I feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like most liberal people that I, are pro gun. So yeah. I'm curious what the ones that you've worked with, sort of how, like, what is their sort of perception?
Why they've chosen? Well, yeah. So to be fair, a few of them in one of my, the most recent classes that I taught up there, which isn't, it was last year, but last summer, they were convinced. I can't even say it with a straight face because it was so wild. They were convinced that Trump was going to take, when he was elected, that they were going to take their guns away from them, specifically because they were Democrats. And I said, have you guys lost your minds? I said, no, that's not going to happen. They were convinced. Now, mind you, what concerns me about this the most is one of them, who is the most vocal in my class, was an attorney. And I'm like, she goes, well, I saw it on TikTok. I'm like, hey, you're a woman in your mid 30s with an education. Like, why are you getting your information off TikTok? Shame on you. You should know better. Right.
Yeah.
And I said, you live in Washington State, and Bob Ferguson, I don't know how far back you dug, because obviously you did your homework on me. But or somebody did, or the producer did, somebody did.
No, it was me. I do all my own homework. Yeah.
Good. I back in 2015, I confronted Kamala. Might have been 16. She came up there on a gun control agenda. And I confronted her about red flag laws and her support of red flag laws. And of course, that went exactly how you would expect it to go. All right, she froze. Well. Yeah, she froze. But Bob Ferguson, who's their governor now, was sitting right next to her. And I tried to explain to these ladies, I said, Trump is the least of your worries. I said, half the Republicans in Congress don't like him. Like, don't worry about him not getting anything done. That's the least of your worries. You need to worry about your governor, and your governors are always the key to this, y'all. Like, don't freak out about federal gun control laws. I'm not saying don't pay attention, but if you think about, when was the last time an actual federal gun control law was passed? It was the bump stock ban, which has been overturned. Unless I'm wrong, I could be missing something in there. I deal with a lot of legislation, but the states are different, and the federal government, especially with red flag laws, will they for lack of a better term, bribe the states to pass certain laws, particularly red flag laws under healthcare crisis. But you need to watch your governors more than the president with that kind of stuff. And she goes, well, he just needs to grow a pair of balls. I'm like, you voted for him. Like, you literally voted for the guy that wants to disarm you. And the cognitive dissonance is just, it's astounding to me to see that. So when I teach my classes, you know, the Second Amendment, to me, anything in the Constitution should not be political, because it wasn't meant to be a political document. But here we are, right? And arguably, the most politically charged of all of those things is the Second Amendment. And so I'm not gonna lie, I love seeing people on the left embracing, now they're going about it wrong with some of the dumb shit that they keep saying. And, you know, they always accuse people on the right of being the ones that are the unhinged, mentally ill ones with the guns. I'm like, you guys are literally doing what you're like. No, we're really not. And I'm actually more centrist than anything. I like to refer to myself as conservative-ish. Probably similar to y'all, but I think like most people are actually. But it's interesting to see that dynamic and how those things play out. You know, and in the South, women aren't afraid of guns, but they don't want to go shoot a lot because that's their husband's thing. And I'm like, well, honey, where's your husband now? Your husband can't be around 24 hours to protect you, number one. Number two, if he is, meet me after class, because that's a whole other conversation we need to have, because that's creepy. And number three, like, we get like some of my elders in my classes. This was an eye-opening experience. I have had a few take my classes because they've had to become their husband's protector as they've gotten older, and their husband has gotten Parkinson's or something else. And they've had to come take a class so that they could protect their husband.
Wow.
And, right? Isn't that cool? I mean, I think it's sweet, but it's also that kind of reality check that, you know, we don't think about that, you know. But one of the ladies here, when I first moved here, I was born in Georgia. So I've moved home after living on the West Coast most of my life. And one of the ladies that I chatted with, because I'm like, I'm not going to be teaching that much here. Everybody's into guns down here. And she said something to me that absolutely changed my perspective. And she said, in her, you know, she was country as a chicken coop, this gal. And she said, oh, we know how to shoot guns. Our redneck husbands teach us how to shoot rifles off the back porch. We don't know necessarily how to be gun owners. And I thought, whoa, that's it right there, right? Because there is a big difference, because even in Georgia, where just because you can legally doesn't always mean you should. Mm-hmm. And it still doesn't mean that you can't catch charges. So we like to refer to it in our classes as the too pretty for prison section of class. And that just because, you know, even legally speaking, right? Look at the McCluskeys in Missouri. All it took was a politically ambitious district attorney to charge them with crimes that they didn't commit. And they still had to go through that kind of hell. So, and, you know, minimum 5 figures it cost them, right? I'm sure it probably cost them $30,000, $40,000 to fight this over something that ended up getting dropped. So we always think of it in terms of self-defense, but rarely do we think about all of these other factors that go around it. And that's not even getting into the psychological impact it's going to have on you. Like I said, I've had to draw my gun on a crazy homeless guy coming at my car. And I didn't have, he clearly wasn't crazy enough. He clearly was clear enough head to see that gun, and he took off. But I had nightmares about that at night, you know, for a couple of nights, and I didn't pull the trigger, you know. And even in the most justified of situations, it's still going to affect you. And what if you have babies? What if your babies see you do it, right? I mean, I'm not saying don't do it, but these are all things to think about. So if you can really walk away, it's probably just best to walk away until you can't. And then when you can't, be accurate.
Yeah, well, it's all like such beautiful stories. So many empowering examples of how you've, you know, helped women, but everyone, and have broken so many barriers when it comes to this whole idea that, you know, seeing guns as something that only belongs to men. So I love everything you're doing around that.
Thank you. Absolutely. Women benefit more from gun ownership than men, bottom line, because we're disproportionately targeted as victims. So ladies,
that makes sense.
This is your space, and you can own it just as much as the men. Get out there and get a gun and get trained.
I want to give a quick shout out to Harvey's, because this is I pulled up this is, the post was so nice. Welcome to the club, sweetheart. Tell me what gun you need to complete the ensemble. And the first one's on me. And I was like, what? No way.
Yeah. He's great. And, he donated a modified Glock 19 to us at the holidays for me to raise money as a fundraiser.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to go up and do some content with him because he's not far from me. But I think those guys are great over there.
Amazing. They've been so lovely, so generous to me. Just genuinely like happy to help me in this situation. It was really so nice. So I want to give them a big shout out and tell everyone to follow them. And then here she is.
There she is. That's a Sig Sauer Rose 365. Yeah. And part of what made this gun different, for those of you that do you know what, Angela, tell me, what makes this gun different than the regular 365? Did they tell you?
No.
Okay. So it's got a compensated barrel, which is supposed to help a little bit with recoil. My jury's out on that a little bit. I'm not completely convinced that that's the case, but that's what it is. It has the pretty little rose gold accents on it. And what made this one cool in this whole collection is that most guns, obviously, if you're a gun owner, you know this, they don't come with this whole set. But one of the things that was smart that they did is they took a cue from the beauty industry, which was my past life, when the beauty industry sends influencers PR packages. They send everything that, is going on with whatever their collections are. So what they did is they essentially they packaged and then marketed this gun that way. And I thought that was, as somebody that has a strong marketing and retail background, I thought that was smart. So what they did, because women are going to be, men will buy a gun and like, let's go blow shit up, right? Whereas women are like, now, wait a minute, why is it like this? And how come it's like this? And why do we do this? And why is it like this, right? So what they did is they put all of that together in a package, including the safe. Right, because you get the biometric safe.
Yeah, I know. I was excited about the safe. I thought that was really nice.
That's there with it, and then you can see. I don't know if you can see underneath the gun. There's like a little black bag. I don't know if y'all can see that, but that's the way they package we call them snap caps. For those of you that don't know, they're dummy rounds that you can practice with, dry fire with. And so the way that they did this whole package was in a way to make it aesthetically appealing to ladies, and that was a smart move on their part. To kind of welcome women into that space, not just with the gun, right? It wasn't just a pink gun. They created a whole marketing package around it, and I liked that idea.
Yeah, me too. It definitely appeals to me. It's beautiful. I'm like also into like beauty and aesthetics, and I love metallics. So I do really love that as well.
Wait till you find out about Cerakoting and how the infinite ways that you can have your gun custom painted in metallic, whatever you want, metallic flowers on it. There are people that my friend owns a company here in Georgia called ATF, and he and then another friend of mine, he makes the paints for Cerakoting, custom paints.
Yeah.
For Cerakoting, like you can have your gun done in, like, ladies, listen, if you see a pink gun, you like it, cool. I'm not discouraging you, but do not buy your gun simply because it's pink, because there's this whole world outside of there, and you don't have to settle for the Barbie pink bubblegum or the Holstein Glock 19. You can have it done any way you want, in any color, in any combination of color, and it's like, don't limit yourself because it's a whole other world out there.
Yeah, you need a bold lib gun.
Bobby said Bel Camino painted on it.
That's right. Yeah, you can. I have it put down the barrel of it. That's right.
Not bad.
The thing is like,
I'm famous online put on there.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is like, people, when the people used to ask me in the military, because I was a fitness instructor too, they would ask me like, what's the best exercise to do? What's the best the best exercise is the one that you will do. It's the one that you will do and you will stick with. And so if you have something that you feel comfortable with, you like to carry, you aesthetically it looks nice or whatever, like that is the best one to have. That's the best gun to have, is the one that you're going to use, you're going to carry with you on a regular basis, you're going to take to the range. That's the one that's the right one for you. And so that's, when people talk about the different calibers and all this different things, it's the one that fits you, your personality, and the one that you're going to carry on a regular basis and not be afraid to use. And that's the right one.
Absolutely. And when we get into carrying, and I'm not a fan of purse carry for many, many, many reasons. But that being said, there are some companies out there that have made crossbody carry bags that are actually decent for being able, and I'll get you a link for one, Angela. One of the most aesthetically pleasing at this point, because most of them look like fanny packs that people just carry across, but they actually made a bag, a leather bag, and it's designed to wear across your body. And what I like about it, there's two things I like about it. One of them, the tassel for, instead of it being a zipper or like something that's hard to grab, it's a long tassel for you to grab. And then the bag drops open so you can grab your firearm. Now, there's the whole argument about you're going to flag somebody coming around, but the truth is, the reality is when you're in a real situation where you're using it, it's going to be the least thing that you're going to be worried about. Even though you probably should, because every round that leaves your gun, you're responsible for, right? But what I that's a different conversation. But they also made a chain that goes around, and it's a pretty little gold chain, and it attaches to the bag, goes around a woman's, or a man, I guess, if you man want to carry it, I suppose I shouldn't be limiting people, right? Around your waist, and then attaches.
We love pets on this show. We do.
My dog. Yeah,
the pets.
Finally, good. I'm glad. Well, I've got 4 cats and 2 dogs, and the weather finally warmed up. It's been cold here, and we finally warmed up enough that the peepers are out and all the critters are out in the woods. I've got 30 acres out here.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're losing their minds right now because it's been months since they've heard anything. Anyway, so exactly. So it attaches around your waist so that it gives that extra retention at the waist, so that when you yank that out and pull the gun out, the bag doesn't flop up with it, and it's more aesthetically attractive. Which, back to Jay's point, you're going to carry it. As a female. But what I found is I carry different guns in the summer than I carry in the winter, because I can wear more clothes in the winter than I do in the summer. And so my gun will, and you'll get there. I promise. It's like I said, like potato chips
the time. So there's not a lot of opportunities for winter.
That's true. That is fair. And
I don't know if I'll be here forever, so we'll see.
Right. Well, one of the things about you do get falling iguana season there. So there is that.
I have not experienced that yet, actually.
I was at my girlfriend's and saw it once. It was wild. She lives out in Cocoa Beach, but so that for me is a thing. But that being said, that 365, the reason it's so popular is because of the capacity that you can have. And for those watching, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, it means how many rounds you can have in the gun. For as many rounds as you can have in the gun for the size of it. And they were kind of the first. One of the first that kind of did that and kind of changed the game. And so you'll find that you'll be able to carry that when you're around, and I can help you get some really great holsters, or another thing that you can get all kinds of cool stuff, especially a SIG, because everybody makes them. Flowers and glitter and whatever you want. So they're pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate you being so, generous with that. I'm definitely, I want to be safe, because, I'm already a little bit scared about it, and this is new to me. I also was told that it's really geared toward women, this specific gun, and first time gun owners. So, that's all sounds really good. It gives me more confidence, I guess. And then
we'll help you get over your fear.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to,
you're my idea. You're actually my target student. You're the type, you're specifically, I specialize in teaching women that are afraid of guns, women that have trauma attached to guns. Sometimes the women don't even know they have a trauma attached, right? It's one thing when it's tangible, when, she's had the gun held to her head, and I've dealt with a lot of that.
Yeah.
But, I've had students in my class that were pro 2A, super pro gun, decided to finally come to a class because they decided to start carrying and not just have one for home defense. And of course they don't know how to operate it, because being pro gun doesn't necessarily mean you know how to operate your gun, or that you're a gun owner. But we get up there and it's time for live fire, and they panic and collapse. And one of them in particular, I took the gun away. I said, "Do you have some trauma attached to guns?" And she said, "No. I've never had any episodes with myself." And I said, "What about family?" And then she looked at me and she broke down. And she said, "My brother killed himself with a gun." And I said, "You don't even realize, but that's a trauma that you have attached to a gun, and you didn't realize it." So sometimes it's just, and helping them realize that, because we can make somebody as proficient. I can make a female as proficient with a gun as any dude out there, right? That trains regularly. But if we don't address a core trauma that a student may, and men too, this applies to men too. If they have some sort of core trauma that they do or do not know is there, they're never going to get comfortable carrying that gun every day to be able to use it when they need it. So we need to address that, which goes back to our whole saying in our classes that sometimes we have to help women understand their lives are worth defending before we can teach them how to defend it.
Well, I love your approach. It's funny because one of the questions I wanted to ask you is tough is like, there's so many headlines in this era around mass shootings, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of, what you're speaking to is also something I wanted to ask about, conversations that come up with people who have been traumatized or impacted by gun violence and like what that looks like, because I think that's a lot of the reason why people are anti-guns.
Yeah, and I want to help change a narrative a little bit if I can use your platform to do that. There is no such thing as gun violence. It is a made-up term by Everytown and Brady campaign, all of these gun grabbers and the politicians that manipulate and use these organizations to affect gun control. But there is no such thing as gun violence. My ex-husband almost killed me with his hands, and I don't see people calling for fist control, right? I don't see people calling it abuser violence. I don't see people calling it fist violence. It's a made-up term to inherently make people afraid of firearms. There are violent acts that are committed with guns. And it's a common term, and we see it. I mean, I know, Jay, we see it in the gun space all the time. Even gun people use that term all the time. And one of my big things is wanting to shift that conversation. Now, interestingly enough, when it comes to mass shootings, if you actually go back to the 70s and look at one of the first definitions of mass shootings and what they defined it as, it's very different than it is now. Back then, I believe, don't quote me on this because I'd have to go back and dig, but I want to say it was like three individuals, including the shooter. And now they classified, I think, as one plus the shooter or something like that. Anyway, they've moved the goalpost to make it less victims so that they can justify counting more, as they say, mass shootings. And when it comes to the schools, like school shootings and stuff, there's one out there really bad, the K through 12 guy, whatever his name is out here, he's insufferable. To say that there's been school shootings, they'll use statistics of a shooting that is even a shootout between cops and criminals that are in like a 1 block vicinity of a school. And so they'll manipulate the language around what that looks like to create fear, to create more fear with that language, with mass shootings and stuff. And I'm not saying they don't exist. They do 100%. That is a thing, but there's also, mass stabbings and other, women are attacked. And now it's happening here. We had a recent incident, I was going to say in England, where women are attacked in mass by chemicals, right? Where chemicals are being thrown on women. Well, that's happening here now. We've had a couple of incidences of it here. So it's unfortunate that they use those things, and especially kids, right? In the schools, they really like to use children as that pawn because that's what tears at everybody's heartstrings. But the reality is if you actually look at it, there have been less deaths with rifles than blunt objects. If you actually go into the FBI and you look at the data, there's very few mass shootings that are committed with rifles. In fact, of all of the mass shootings that do happen, most of them are with handguns, but guess what? They're in high crime, gang-ridden cities like Chicago, Indianapolis. Those are the areas that have them. So is it a gun violence issue or is it a gang violence issue?
Well, the other part is the more hard targets there are out there, the less mass anything that you're going to have, right? There's a reason, the president's kids go to school, right? They go to college, they go to high school, they go to all these things. Well, why do you never hear about their kid being involved in something like this? Well, because they're hard targets where they're at. There's security, they have, things that protect them or whatever. And this is one of the things that I brought up for like our schools and stuff like that. We need to harden them as, they need to be harder in terms of like their security and stuff like that, people need to be harder too, because then you don't have these issues. You don't have these mass shootings or whatever. Is violence still going to happen? Yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen. And we're never going to get away from that.
Right.
The world is a very unforgiving place, and people are sick and twisted. Trust me, I know. I've been to some really bad places. But the thing is like, the more hard targets we have, the more we can curb this, the more we can stop it right at the root. We can, you guys can, people can protect themselves. They can, God forbid they have to shoot somebody or whatever, but they can prevent somebody from doing more damage or hurting more people or hurting somebody who is innocent, a kid that doesn't have the opportunity to defend themselves with a weapon or something like that. You may have the opportunity to protect them. So the more hard targets we have out there, the less of these mass incidents that we'll have, and people will be able to protect themselves. Like
100%. And to piggyback off that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
You're done. Thank you for coming to his TED Talk. He's right. And interestingly enough, to piggyback on that and actually reinforce what he's saying, do you know that there has never been a mass shooting at an urban high school or urban school ever? They've all been in suburban areas where they're open campuses, multiple entry points. Take the armed staff out of the equation totally, right? Just for the sake of I believe in armed staff. However, it is not as easy as just let them carry a gun. They need to be trained.
Yeah.
It's a whole process. Yeah. But take that aside, and what do you have in urban schools? In inner city schools that you do not have in these suburban and rural schools. Number one, you have single point entry. One entry in, one entry out. That door is locked. There is no open campus. And everybody has to go in those secured doors. They usually have security, armed cops or armed security as well. And even taking the armed security out, single point entry, locked doors alone would absolutely end mass shootings in schools. It would just be the end of it. So the bigger question that I think that people need to be asking gun control groups, and let's be clear, they know this stuff. They don't give a shit, right? Because they're being paid. It's a whole different agenda. And even the politicians, they know better. I really believe they do. But ask them, but still keep putting it out there, because there may be one person that has that aha moment. Be like, so we've never had a mass shooting in an urban school or in an inner city school. Why is that? Oh, because they make it a hard, like he was saying, like a hard target. And it's my girlfriend Ursula, who's an amazing competitive shooter. She said it, and it stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. She said, they're going to keep killing our babies till they take our guns. She said that after Uvalde. And I was like, that's about it right there, right? Because they know that all it would take is hardening these schools to end this situation. Why aren't they doing it? That's because they still want to use your children and domestic violence victims and veterans for gun control. That was a huge victory that Gun Owners of America had last year for veterans, is that, I don't know, a lot of people know this, but veterans, up until last year, if a veteran had to go to the VA to get assistance with his or her benefits, they could be flagged in their system as not being mentally capable to own a gun. Same thing with the Social Security. If you have to go and get assistance from the office with Social Security and see an agent, they can flag you. They can still do that, as far as I know. I could be mistaken, but as far as I know, Social Security, that's still a problem, because they had a veteran that was their plaintiff and they won that case. So that is no longer the case for veterans. Huge victory for veterans. But how pathetic is that they used veterans as a way to control, gun control by just simply, have you ever tried to use those systems? Good God, my husband's a veteran. Jesus. I mean, any government system's a nightmare to try to deal with, right? But, so God forbid you be a mature individual that wants help learning how to get the benefits that you have due to you, and then they're going to disarm you. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, Jay knows about, we've spoken about that before in relation to mental health and the barriers with mental health being a veteran.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
it's,
yeah,
it's
yeah. I
huge
mean,
stigma.
everybody has the right to protect themselves. Everybody has the right. For me,
Right.
it's less about the it's more of a safety thing, right? It's like having airbags in your car. Like, it's a safety feature that we should all be afforded. It's constitutionally allowed to us to have this safety feature, and I am glad that people exercise it, and I don't want anybody, like, but there are crazy people in the world.
Right.
Let's she brought that up, that not everybody should be carrying a gun, right? Like, a lot of my friends and stuff like that, they're like, well, we should just arm teachers and stuff like that, or we should just arm, like, not everybody should be armed. Like, everybody is not going to be safe with a gun. Everybody doesn't have the right
But everybody
intention.
has the right to be, if they choose to be.
Yeah.
It's important that they get that education and training.
Yeah, they need to be trained. They need to be mentally stable and stuff like that. And we see that a lot of
I'm
people.
gonna push back with you on that, because the mentally stable conversation opens up a can of worms that justifies red flag laws. And as a domestic violence victim, survivor, excuse me, that red flag laws are often used during domestic violence. A lot of people don't realize that I've done talks about red flag laws specifically across the country. GOA calls me the red flag law expert. This is getting into a topic that I know, and I know well. In fact, I'm getting ready to do a talk for it for a website, and post the talk on this website. But the minute that you start classifying somebody as mentally ill and that they shouldn't own a gun is the minute it can be used against you. And in terms of domestic violence, what happens? We've had women in our classes, and I have a friend in California who is a firearms instructor in Northern California, in a very conservative area, but her abuser was a very prominent member of a very prominent family. He had her red flagged, saying that she was mentally unstable, even though he was the one that was beating her. Had that done so that he could get all of her guns confiscated from her, and then he harassed her, would bang on the door at 3 a.m. Where are you? How come I can't see your car? He stalked her, and he did it knowing that she was disarmed. That was also the way that he took away her way to make money. Because that was how she was. And so basically he was doing it because he wanted custody of his kids. And he's like, see, she's crazy and she has no guns. She can't teach anybody, right? He could have ended her career potentially in California with that. I also had another woman who was an abuse victim who finally got away from her abuser. Abuser wouldn't leave her alone. Abuser wouldn't leave her alone. One night he's calling her, and he won't leave her alone. Yes, I know, dog. And she finally turns off her phone, because she's just done listening to him. And at 2:00 in the morning, banging on the door scares the hell out of her. I understand. She goes to the door and opens, to answer the door with her gun in her hand. Thank God that she had cops that were rational at that point, because that could have ended really bad, right? When she shows up and answers the door. Her abuser had called the cops, telling them that she was suicidal and she had a gun. And see, what a lot of people don't realize is red flag laws existed prior to their actually having an official name. At some point that could always be done. So I push back against that, because who gets to decide who's mentally ill and who's not, right?
Yeah, well, I'm with you there, but like the thing is they take it, to your point, they take it a step too far. Having been through trauma, like a lot of people have been through trauma, like a lot more people have PTSD than
they probably realize,
because their dad beat their mom, or they've been in a car accident, or their dog died, right? There's a lot of different ways you can be traumatized. But the thing is too, is like, somebody who is a schizophrenic, I would argue that maybe that's somebody, we should look at for maybe not having, like, Irina Zarutska's killer was a documented schizophrenic, right?
Yeah, and he also killed her with a knife. So are we going to keep them from having knives too?
I would argue that he is maybe a candidate for that. But like, somebody who's been through domestic violence, I don't know what the perfect answer is, But
I've got the perfect answer, and the perfect answer is encouraging people to. It is not our responsibility to decide who gets a gun and who doesn't. It's our responsibility to be better trained than people that want to hurt us, and that goes back to the core of the government, right? That goes back to the core of what we were built on: self-responsibility and taking care of ourselves. And I hear you. I understand what you're saying, and this is always a topic that is hot for people. But because I'm coming from a space where I could have been disarmed personally, I understand that, they're never, anybody who's going to try to put a law like that in place, number one, is always going to take it too far. And we have right now, I don't know if you know this, but in Georgia right now, we have a red flag law that was just presented. I did a piece of content on it. And in there, it's I can show up and say, Jay is mentally ill. He's not stable. He's an unstable veteran with PTSD. And they're going to show up at your door and take your guns. And then you, 14 days, if this law passes, 14 days later, you have to go in and prove that you're stable. First of all, that's a huge violation of due process. And so the thing about those types of laws is that they're not just a Second Amendment issue, they become a due process issue. So, and then you're dealing with multiple layers of violating, the rights that are human rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution. So what is the answer to that? I believe in educating families, and I believe that it is our job to just watch these people, because anybody who, like Irina's, what's her last name? I was going to say Zelensky, and I knew that wasn't. That's the Ukrainian guy. So, but the thing is that he still found a way to kill her, right? Right. He used a knife. So if somebody is intent on harming somebody, they're going to do it. My ex used his fists, right? Well, so, and I understand what you're saying, but the minute that we start saying that these types of people should be able to, and these type of people shouldn't, is the minute that it gets abused.
Well, it's also a response to a system that is failing us, right? It's a response.
It's all the system, 100%.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been out on the fucking streets.
100%. He should have been in a mental institution.
He shouldn't we shouldn't have never had this question, but we do, because we have these judges that are failing us. So that's another piece. We don't need to go into that, but.
Yeah, so I'm glad you pulled that up. Thank you. Yeah, even with my readers, it was a little bit hard to see.
No, it's interesting. Do medications make a difference? I mean, she said,
I got you back. I don't know if it was my internet or what. I apologize, y'all.
No, you're fine. Okay. So certain medications should not be allowed to have guns from a pharmacist perspective.
So, and this is where, I think if you're on certain medication, right. But here's the thing, right? And this goes back to the law in Washington State, that part of that law. So that threw me into all of this. In that law, what it says is they can deny me or anybody the purchase of a firearm based on what they see in their medical record, right? Nowhere do they say how far they can look back. No, the way, oftentimes when policy is written, it's not what is written, not how the law is written, it's how it's not written that bites people in the ass. And this was a great example of it. The way that this law was vaguely written by design was to allow the government to overreach under the umbrella that is vague, right? And so in this, they can look at your medical record every year if they want. There is no specific list of medications that are denied. So it could be anything. And so my girlfriend, who had the gene for breast cancer, and she had a mastectomy, and she had all of her girl stuff, right? She had a hysterectomy. She had a double mastectomy. Don't feel bad for her. Her tits are great now. She's the one that will tell you that. She got big fake boobs that are amazing now. She's like, don't feel bad for me. Look at these guys, right? She's great. Yeah, she has great attitude about it. But and that was 15 years ago. She's a survivor. But one of the medications that she had to take while she was going through this to help her hormone issues was classified as a psychotropic. So at what point, like, how specific are you going to get? Like, I hear you. Like, I get it, right? These are all arguments that I hear all the time.
Right, because we think about like operating machinery and like, things like that.
Right. So I get it, right? But until we live in a system, a political system, and I call it a legal system because we don't have a justice system. We have a broken legal system. Until we have a legal system and legislative system that isn't using it to manipulate their agenda, there's no way that it's going to be done in a way that can't be used against somebody. It's just not. This is where there's organizations like Hold My Guns. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're a wonderful organization that works with gun stores and ranges that they get to partner with them for. I'll get you some information. Holdmyguns.org if you want to look up the website. But Sarah Joy is she's a good friend of mine, and she founded that organization. So what she does is she works with gun stores and ranges, and she gets them approved on the list. And so when a family or an individual feels like they're in a crisis, they can intervene and have these guns taken away from the person who they are concerned about until they are better, and then they will give them back their guns. And then this way, right? It's weird, right? It's like almost like private sector yet again is being successful at handling a situation. Interestingly enough, total side note of gossip on this. 2 years ago, she messaged me. She goes, apparently they're having a conversation about the program that we created at the White House, and they didn't invite me. So somebody took her story, right? So they know this is not a conversation that isn't happening in the White House at some point. They know. Actually, it might have been 4 years ago now. Now that I think about it, COVID still has me kind of messed up years.
Time is just flying. I don't know.
Yeah. So I get it, right? And I hear you guys. I don't want you to think that I'm being dismissive of what you're saying, because I get it. I'm a firearms instructor. Believe me, there are women in my classes, and I'm like, whew. But at what point do we have to say, we don't need to focus on the guns. We need to focus on how that stuff is being written. And the thing is that you're dealing with you're dealing with judges that advocate and they're activists from the bench, right? And all it's going to take is one judge that doesn't like guns to just take them away from you just because he doesn't like guns, right. Or you've got legislators that are using it for an agenda. So until then, you have people out there like what I do my best to get out there and be like, look, it's not our place to disarm somebody. So you better be trained. And part of that training isn't just knowing how to pull a trigger. It's situational awareness. It's being aware of your surroundings, right? There is so much more that goes into being a gun owner. That's why that lady, it was so great. She goes, we know how to shoot guns. We don't know how to be gun owners. Man, that's it right there, right? Boom. Because I am going to do everything that I can to either avoid a place, right? Or get myself out of a situation if I see it getting hot. So I never have to pull the trigger to begin with.
Yeah.
And what did Irina do? And look, I'm not blaming her. Look, I'm a victim of abuse, right? I get it. This is no blame. I'm looking at this as an instructor with a holistic perspective. But what did she do? She sat down, put her earphones in, and she didn't hear the guy, right? And there's something, could she have saved herself? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. And this doesn't excuse his behavior, obviously. But there's things that can be done to help reduce the chances of you being a victim.
Yeah, really interesting conversation. So Anne's just added exactly, it should be an independent group that does the assessments and give you back your guns if they deem you suitable.
Yeah, and if you're interested, you can find me on DM me on, because girl, I got perimenopause and I'll forget this conversation. So I'm just being honest. The DM me and I'll get you a link to Sarah's information. You can look at what she's doing because she's trying to expand that across. And I think it's a great idea. And it's a private sector issue that's pro-gun, right? She's pro-gun and she's trying to deal with it from that side so that we don't have to get overstepping government involved. Jay, I'll get you that information too if you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a big 2A advocate, obviously. And, I don't have all the answers. And one of the things that, for us, what you can do is you can take a look at us versus Australia. And I believe that, during the pandemic, that our country would have locked us down like they did Australia. And one of the things that protected us from that not happening is because we have the Second Amendment.
It's true.
And they cannot do certain things to us. It provides us a certain blanket of freedom and liberty having these things out there because we have more. I don't remember what the statistic is, but American gun owners, just gun owners, overall own more guns than every other military in the world. I believe that's a statistic. Yeah. Somebody can look it up,
and that's what we know is owned.
Right.
That's not what right. I love it when they're like,
that
you
doesn't
don't have my call, honey.
Yeah, I mean, we got trips and stuff like that where things happen. So, but it's kind of an anomaly in the world, and we have this thing, and we shouldn't take it for granted. It's something that's been provided for us, by some very smart people who saw some of this stuff coming, and knew how evil the world was. And it's something that I encourage everybody to exercise that legally can.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And it's I used to work for one of the big I shouldn't say pro-gun researchers because he's neutral, but a lot of his stuff actually debunks a lot of the gun stuff. One of the big research projects that you saw him come out with not too long ago was how the FBI was lying about the data for defensive gun uses for active shooter situations. And they're like, oh, there's only like 20%. And he's like, actually, it's closer to half. So, and he's a researcher. He went in, he dug through the data. He had all that. But I did several pieces of content for him when I was working for him about Australia specifically, as well as other countries. And even in other countries, even countries that are island, right, fully isolated with no other countries around them, that have strict gun control, they still have there's still violence with gun. Like people are going to do it, right? It's going to happen. I just went last year and I spoke at the UN about, and the UN would love nothing more than to see no guns anywhere in the world. But you know who they're using for their agenda? Oh, women are being killed. I'm like, yeah, give them guns. I bet you train those women to shoot back. And I bet you they're not going to have that problem. And so I did an individual talk at this.
Yeah.
I talked in the main forum with hundreds of people that don't give a shit. And then I honestly, because they want guns, but I did an independent talk and I talked about this, and that room was full of women going, we need to be, and I'm talking from India, Bangladesh, Palestine, Israel. Like I had a woman from Palestine, a woman from Israel, both sitting in there, both wanting, but they're both like, yes, sister, I see you. We need to be able to protect ourselves. Like it was so powerful to see that, and how frustrated they were to see these things. And what's interesting is even under the assault weapons ban that we had, which was under Bill Clinton, the Clinton administration actually admitted that they saw no reduction in violence with guns even during their assault weapons ban. In fact, gun owners, AR-15 ownership increased under the ban because it was all cosmetic stuff. And Angela, you're getting a huge education in guns today, aren't you?
I know. Well, it's good timing. I need it.
Yeah. So there's actually a huge misconception. Oh, the assault weapons ban and weapon and violent crime went down. Yeah, but that's probably because AR-15 ownership actually went up. Right? It actually increased. It didn't decrease. And even the Clinton administration, who put that in place, admitted at the end of it, they're like, yeah, we didn't see any improvement. Working for that researcher, as nuts as he was, because he was batshit crazy. Because numbers guys are kooky, you know what I mean? But they can be a little kooky. But I learned a lot, and I learned some interesting things, even globally. And I've been blessed to speak internationally on gun rights and things, and some of these perceptions that people have about guns across the world and the violence and the numbers. When you can actually get to the numbers that aren't being manipulated by the government, the numbers don't lie. The more people that are armed, the safer we. An armed society is a polite society. And it is actually a fact.
Yeah, we're too close to the cartels too. If we ever ban guns, if they ever did some mass doing away with guns or whatever, we are so close to the cartels that we would have such a problem with cartel crime in America at that point. It would be the worst idea ever. We would be a terrorist state at that point because of how close to all that, the drug trade, all that stuff. We have it right on our southern border. We need to have an armed society in the U.S.
100%. And Angela, I am so thrilled that you are now part of that group of women in particular.
Well,
this is just the beginning, sister. Look, I'm going to bring down my rifles too. I'm going to bring shotguns down. Look, we going at it. I'm going to have you out there. I'm going to take you to some range days, and we're going to have you shooting full auto. And
wow,
oh, man,
she's going to be Hannah Barron in a year.
Hannah Barron. Do you know who Hannah is, Angela?
No, but I'm going to look it up.
Look, I promise you probably know who she is. She's the little redneck. She's, speaking of country, is a chicken coop. Hannah Barron she's the noodler, right? She's the gal that goes out and catches the catfish in the swamps.
Oh,
and the catfish are as big as her. The reason the catfish are as big as her is she's little. She's tiny. She's like maybe maybe 5'1",
I'm
and
pretty
110 pounds.
little, but
Yeah,
I'm
she's about your. Yeah, she's tiny.
No, she's a little.
itty
Yeah,
bitty.
she's smaller than me, but
and she's
that's
but
badass.
that's it. Yeah, we're gonna turn you into a little redneck in the country.
I mean, I'm in Florida now, and you know,
they like their guns down there.
and I do like to be badass and strong, and so
I got you, sis. We got you taken care of.
I mean, I couldn't be luckier to have you helping me, like the best teacher of all time. So this.
Well, I don't know about that, but there's some other amazing teachers out there. But I can definitely get you there. And there's a certain level that I like to teach to, and then I'm done. Right? When it gets into more advanced stuff, can I teach you? Yeah, but there's better instructors. And so once I get you to a certain point, then I'm going to kick you out of the nest and tell you to go fly. And then I'm going to send you on with some of the other amazing instructors. There's a facility down there not far. It might be a little bit more northwest of you, but it's called Aries. Aries Firearm Training down there in Florida, and they're great. And they just brought in my friend Nikki from Kerry Trainer, who's a high level instructor. So there's a certain level I like to teach to. And then we send you on your way. One of the things I really like to teach is shotgun, because a lot of people think they can run a shotgun. Women are told constantly to get a shotgun. We bring them in and we let them shoot AR-15s and shotguns at the same time. And then and I know Jay will appreciate this. You will, once I teach you. Women are scared of ARs, but they're not scared of shotguns because they're told to get a shotgun. And then I let them shoot both of them. And they're like, "Oh God, this AR was a million times easier to shoot." And I'm like, "Yeah."
I'm actually pretty scared of a shotgun. I one time went to a shooting range with friends, and I didn't shoot anything, but the shotgun was the scariest to me.
That's because they're loud, and we call them boomsticks for a reason. But I got to tell you, man, shotguns. Once you know how to harness a shotgun, to me personally, as a woman who is in this space who teaches women. And I consistently see they like shooting ARs. ARs are cool, but nothing makes them feel like they've got it under control, like shooting a 12 gauge shotgun. But the thing is that a lot of women, especially in the South and in the country, they think, "Oh, well, I can use my shotgun." And I'm like, just because you go hunting, shooting a shotgun or any gun for that matter in hunting, very different than it is for home defense. But we'll teach you. And look, you don't have to shoot 12 gauge. They'll teach you to shoot something else. They make 20 gauge. They make little 410s. With less recoil. But once we get you harnessed into 12 gauge, you're going to be like, am I wrong, Jay? Would you say 12 gauges are fun to shoot?
My home defense, that's sitting right next to me, is a semi-auto shotgun is what I use for home defense.
I love my semi-autos. I love a good pump action. Good news, the thing about pump action, man, they're consistent, right? And one of my mentors in the industry, one of the best instructor. I'm blessed that I pretty much told him he was going to be my mentor. He didn't have a choice in the matter. He's created some of the best instructors out there in the world. He's OG. He's been around since the late 80s, early 90s, written programs and so on. And I took a 3-day shotgun symposium, defensive shotgun symposium, very eye-opening. It was the Van Kamp one. It was very eye-opening. And I was just dead afterward. We shot about 1,000 rounds of 12 gauge in 3 days. And yeah, I was a little sore. and I'm trained, right? And oh man, it was rough. That being said, he made a point that I've never forgotten. And he said the one thing that they're probably never, ever, ever going to go after is a pump action 12 gauge. And I thought, that's probably fair. So I do tell ladies, is it my choice? For me, no, it's not my home defense choice. But then again, well, I shouldn't say that. It depends on the situation. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I know you're coming and I can assess it and grab what I want to grab because I keep them all next to my bed.
Yeah.
But oh, it's just an animal. I'm going to grab this. Oh, it's this. I'm going to grab this. I'm lucky that way. Not everybody is, right? And so, in fact, I'm getting ready to teach a class with Terry Ann Bowman, actually in Iron Rose, talking about how to assess your home situation for the type of gun that you use for home defense. A 12 gauge may not be the best choice if you live in an apartment, right? It may not be the best choice if you live in a townhome where the house is right next to you. So there are factors involved. Even a handgun with the right ammo can go through the wall if that's a problem, right? So I'm going to be teaching a class on how to choose your home defense weapon based on on doing an assessment of your home environment and where you live. Yeah, and I think that's going to be, and women are they think more like that, right? But I love me a 12 gauge, man. I love them. And they are, if you want to end the game, Get a 12 gauge shotgun with double up buck or a slug, and you are done. Because if I'm close enough to you and I'm shooting you with a slug out of a 12 gauge, I'm gonna take your head off. Right? But Joe Biden, just get a shotgun. I'm like, tell me you don't know anything about shotguns without telling me, because you're probably more likely to survive an AR shot at the right range than you are a shotgun with the right load. So, but we'll teach you all of those things, Angela. I'll bring down my shotguns.
I'm so grateful. I mean, the expertise. It's amazing. It's so good. I just wanted to say, so Ange chimed in and said 100% guns are banned in New Zealand. Yeah, there's a gun shooting almost every week, just a little isolated island at the end of the world. So yeah.
And so this was what the research, and to circle back to that, the research that he did was every country in the world. He actually assessed every country in the world, and whether they had a border or didn't have a border or whatever. And there was no guns or no gun. It was irrelevant into how the numbers of crime, just like here, right? Whether there's like states that'll tell you, oh, well, we have reduced crime. Do you, or did you guys stop reporting it? Right. What kind of crime? You may not be having more with guns, but what other crime increased, right? So for those of you that are listening to this, and and Angela, you're being newer to this, it is, always ask the questions behind what they're saying. I mean, this being in the political world anyway, right? What else is going on here that they're not telling you?
Exactly.
I just feel like with guns, it's more so than unusual, right? Okay, it's kind of like domestic violence victims 5 times more likely to die if a gun is in the house, but they don't actually say by gun.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yes, and ... Right. What else is part of that conversation?
Yeah, dig a little deeper, right? Yeah. Well, I would never want to take you on with the argument, because like you've done the research, you have all the things to back it up. So, I mean,
well, I want you to, though, if you have, I want you to, because I want the opportunity to challenge it and push back on it, number one, but number two, you may present something to me that I haven't heard. Right? I've not heard it all. I've not seen it all. Jay hasn't heard it all, hasn't seen it all. Jay, he was an active combat veteran and obviously seen some shit over there. But, has he dealt with a woman with 3 kids and carrying, right? It's just different. It's just different experiences, and all of those experiences. And this, you've got a large platform, and this is a new world for you. And this podcast is newer for you. And I love it. But it's these types of conversations that we bring these all together, where we can start to see these things. And like this gal, like from the pharmacist, she's like, okay, well, maybe I didn't think about that, but yes, a private entity coming in can help with this. So it's all of these conversations when we can come together. And as you both know, being large platforms, everything's black and white, like we talked about earlier. Exactly. And it's opportunities like this. I mean, you guys may present, look, I'm open. If you think you can present a justification for me to justify a gun control law, I'm here for it, but I doubt it. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to listen. And you may tell me something, that I haven't heard. So it's definitely there for sure.
And that's actually exactly what I mean, is that there are people who make these sort of like blanket statements, right? So some of them, critics, are like, guns make society more dangerous. There's just all these very like rigid, one track, ways of thinking, that carrying guns escalates a culture of fear and being more afraid. You've spoken and dismantled all of these things during this conversation, but like, these are some of the things that people just say, but you have like, facts and research and experience. And that's the thing that people need to hear. And that's why I'm so glad that both of you were able to have this conversation, because I really hope so many people listen, because and are open to like, learning and not just being in this box of,
everything is, even with guns, there's nuance with everything. Now, my personal philosophy on gun control is still steadfast, but I also am not naive enough to not understand that there's nuance to these conversations. It's that need to be addressed, and of course, ideally, always in the private sector when possible, because that's how shit gets actually done, not when the government anytime the government gets involved. And I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, shit's going to go downhill. Period. Yeah. Anytime the government gets involved, it's never going to end well, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
Jay, did you have?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, like, educating people on guns and talking openly about it creates a level of respect. You know, being educated on guns, people are going to respect them more, which is what you want. You want them to respect it. It's a real thing. It's a tool, and it can do some very real things. And so, you know, you want people to respect them, to treat them with care, to be responsible with them, and part of that is, you know, educating them, talking about them, you know, like part of gun ownership too is understanding the laws, right? You need to understand the laws in your state and your, what, you know, like federal laws, state laws. You need to understand all these different things. Like, it creates a certain level of responsibility around them, and safety.
And, you know, having these conversations, especially with somebody who's a new gun owner who may have, you know, anti-gun or people that support gun control listening, and it helps too. One of the things, like, for example, when I owned my day spa, and I was you know, as a medical esthetician and nail technician, all the stuffs, and I would get women that came in all the time. And when they found out, I mean, I carried a gun for years, and most of them didn't know it until I came out. And when I came out of the closet, they're like, "Oh my God, but you're not." Oh, so they would come in, they would ask me questions because I wasn't one of those crazy NRA gun owners, right? So it's important for people out there to see people like me, Jay, and especially you, Angela, that you've come into this space because people already may look at you with certain, and I get, you know, you got a whole thing with your, you know, how people perceive you. You got me in the beginning before I knew with that. And I don't remember you, it was something over abortion or something. It was years ago. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay. With your platform on X but now the people that follow you and that are fans of you will be like, okay, so, oh, she's not one of those crazy NRA redneck dudes.
Yeah.
Right. And that starts to change the conversation. And on that note, I had a very far left, arguably feminazi, we can call her, as a client of mine for years. And when I came out as a gun owner, she was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she goes, but you know, and that was that whole conversation. And then I had given a speech on the Capitol lawn in DC, and she asked to watch it. And she did. And I talked about my abuse and how I couldn't eat for days because my mouth was tore up and things. And so I didn't want to get up there and just stand up there and say, don't take my guns. I wanted to give people in the audience a reason to emotionally connect. And I did. And she watched the video, you know, later, a few weeks later. And so she's listening to me as I'm telling the story about how I had gotten to the point where I was gaslit to where I couldn't make dinner because if I made dinner, it was never right. If I didn't make dinner, I was a piece of shit. Like, that's right. Because that's what abuse, the physical is one thing. It's the psychological abuse that women go through. It's way worse from somebody who's been there. But and then I talked about the physical stuff that I went through, and she looked up at me as she's watching this 10-minute speech, and she said, I would have fucking killed him. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. I would have fucking shot him. That's what she said. And I said, would you? And she realized what she said. Yeah, I would have. Now you know why I carry a gun. And then just coincidentally, I ran into her a week later. I was actually out running and I had a gun on me, and it was the summertime. So when I came into my day spa that I owned, and she was there seeing another one of my employees, but the thin fabric on the tank top I had because I was out running, she could kind of make out the print of it because when I'm running, I don't care. And she goes, is that your gun? And I said, yeah, do you want to see it? She goes, I do. So I took it out, took the magazine out, cleared it out, locked the slide back, and handed it to her. And she says, I could do this. And I said, could you? It changed her. But it took hearing my story.
Absolutely.
And so we like to say in our classes that, or advocacy, when people say, you know, what is one of your biggest things when we're talking about advocacy for gun rights and getting to people, what is it? I said, especially with women, you need, emotion is good, right? How do you think the left does it, right? Everything's emotional. And we don't live in a society, excuse me, we don't live in a society where people, like, culturally, right? And generationally, societies become emotionally based thinking, not fact-based thinking and logical thinking. And that's not a bad thing. You just have to know how to adapt. And so I tell people, especially with women, because women are more emotional thinkers. And that's not a bad thing, y'all, because it's that emotional thinking that when time comes for her to light that shit off to protect her kids, that's what's going to do it, not the logic, right? So the right needs to stop like demonizing women and being emotional. And listen, I'll tell you MFers right now, had you sent perimenopausal or postmenopausal women to the Middle East 20 years ago, we wouldn't be having these problems now. I'm just saying, because they would have leveled that thing. So don't talk to me about women not being able to handle shit, because they'd have just been like, we're done. But especially when it comes to babies, right? Protecting their babies and children. So we like to say we want use emotion, but don't get emotional. Remember the Granny Oakley I told you about, right? The logic wasn't getting to her, but the minute I went in with the kids, it changed her mind. Yeah. So the emotional side of it isn't, and that's what happened with this far left, feminist, right? Was I'm a feminist. I'm a real feminist. I don't consider myself a far left nut on that far right extremist side, but then I absolutely cannot stand the tater tot. I call them the tater tot bros, the Andrew Tate manosphere bullshit. I call his followers the tater tot bros. But
that's good.
Right? Because that's really what they are. They're just little crispy tater tots that are running around behind him and hoping not to get squished in their pocket, Napoleon Dynamite's pocket. But it's we have to meet women on their field, right? We have to meet them at their level and what's going to get them inspired and get them ready to do that. And usually it's going to be more of an emotional based thing as opposed to logic. Like you'll see women out there, especially on the internet, you're like, well, it's my God-given right. Yeah, but that's not usually what does it. Usually what does it for women, it's the I needed to protect my kid. Bless you. I need to protect my babies. Crime is getting worse in this area and I'm scared, right? That's where men are like, it's my right. Women are like, I need this because, and not that men don't have those reasons, but that initial entry level, it's not necessarily the case for men the way it is for women.
Yeah. And it's such what you said is that like emotions are not negative. So
not at all. Yeah.
Reframing that whole message. And so I love that you said that because emotions are not a bad thing for women or men. Emotions are normal and they can be good. And women are strong as fuck, like really, right? Like think about giving birth and like all of these. So women are strong.
There's no way that dudes can handle giving birth the way women are very strong. And we can take
a lot of times men are sick, they're babies. There's that whole thing. And that is kind of true.
No, 100%, right? The man flu.
Sorry, Jay. I'm not talking about you, obviously, not you. But.
You know what, though? I think he gets it. You know what I mean? I think he wouldn't be here with us if he wasn't like, I kind of get it. But I'm looking here at the comments, and you answered your own question. The answer is always obvious. Like, I'm not sure if he's trying to be confrontational. I'm not sure what's going on. Should testosterone-enraged males be able to own guns? Oh, I see. I put it all together now. I see what he's saying. So what he's saying is essentially, if crazy people shouldn't own guns, should testosterone-enraged men be able to own guns?
Right.
Right. I see where you're going with that. Now, I mean, that's a fair question, right? Because let's be honest, right? Testosterone-enraged males, like dudes that are doping and shit and like illegal testosterone.
Well, we did talk about medication. Yeah.
They're kind of crazy.
Have this conversation.
It can be. Yeah. So that is a fair thing. And I believe that too. It's either all or nothing. Would I love to see us be able to address mental health care and gun ownership? Sure. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I just don't think that the government needs to get involved because the minute they do is the minute it can be abused.
Right.
But that's why I love Sarah over at Hold My Guns and some of these other organizations that are doing these types of things.
Love it.
And actually finding ways to get around it, private sector without the government getting involved. So look, we didn't have a president for 4 years before Trump for the second term. I'm like, do we need one? Like if we just take a break for a while. Worry more about your governor than your president. That's who you need to worry about.
But another point that you just brought up that we've had in many of our conversations that comes up frequently and something that I really believe in is storytelling. And you just talked about the power of that. Yeah. And people in general, but like you said, with women and emotions, but like making that personal connection, like touching people hearing your story has so much power. And that's something that's really important to me. So with the podcast and the live streams, I really enjoy getting to learn more about people, their backgrounds, their experiences, because we learn so much about you and it really is so powerful and you're so strong. And it's just, I think it really does connect us and hopefully, builds relationships and humanity. It just does, I think, positive things for us, right? For the world, right
No,
now. And I think we
agree.
need more of that. So,
And I think that we've lost, I agree with you. I think social media, people are so obsessed with trying to be famous on social media. It's become, it's absolutely perpetuated a narcissistic culture that we have lost the art of storytelling. I mean, my husband's Native American, right? He's half Native. And, he wasn't fortunate enough to have those stories from his family handed down, for all the different reasons. But, think about how much of those cultures and things, other people's, our cultures, right? How much of that comes through our storytelling, our family lore comes from that. And I think it's great. But I want to ask you, so because there's an appendage to, so let me ask you this first. Why did you make the decision to get a gun?
Well, it was difficult. I guess I mean, it was, I found it so generous for it to be offered and for it to be kind of,
but you put it out there initially for them to pick up on that. And so something inspired you to say, okay, I need to put this out there.
Well, I think they offered it based on something else that I said.
Okay.
So I think they were the ones who put it out there. I didn't necessarily put it out there, but the fact that someone was so passionate about helping me with that kind of made me really like think about it, that it was important to someone else. I think it just really made me consider that, and felt really generous. So it just kind of make me, just be open. Like I think I was saying earlier, and I'm trying in general with most things right now to be open and have these conversations, be like, and question these things we've felt and thought all along, and kind of challenge those things. So I kind of think that's where I was at, is like, this was such a generous thing. And this, that maybe it should be more important to me. And so now having these conversations is just especially hearing from you today, I really do feel the empowerment of it. So now I just have to get over the fears.
Well, the fear is easy. I can help that. We got you. I'll have you in a week.
I think once I have experience and great teacher, obviously, that's the whole thing, is I haven't done it. I haven't done it. It's a new thing. It feels, and obviously the responsibility of having a gun and what that means feels heavy. And
well, girl, you're too pretty for prison. We don't want you going to prison. So we're going to teach you how to avoid it until you can't, right? And then how to be accurate when you can't avoid it anymore, how to be accurate. And, the reason I asked you that is because, and, I don't know your long, I know a couple years, because I followed you for a couple of years. And some of that evolution, I don't know how far back that goes, if you were like really liberal, back in the day and you're kind of coming around, but the fact that you started this podcast, and you're like, okay, I need to start questioning more. And I'm seeing that a lot. I'm seeing that a lot from people that were typically anti-gun, and they're coming into this more, and they're like, okay, crime is, there's still some cognitive dissonance. And a lot of times they're electing these people that are creating these crime statistics. That's a whole other like baby steps, right? Let's get them armed first, and then let's start talking to them about, okay, well,
slowly changing minds.
You keep voting for these guys that keep putting you in these positions where you need a gun. But what it does is you are in a position now with this podcast and your following, that now as you evolve with your training, your story is going to become important to share, because and for all of the women that and men that you will bring into this knowingly, understand that there will be countless women, especially, that are seeing this podcast, that are seeing your posts about it, that are seeing all of these things that you'll never, ever know about, but that you've changed their mind and you've brought them into embracing self-defense with firearms. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about men, and why, look, I get called a man hater a lot. I love men. Somebody's got to kill spiders and change the oil in my car. I think men are great. Somebody's got to take out the garbage, right, Jay? So, that's always a joke I have. But here's the thing. If you go and you see any of the posts I do about guns and stuff, and the way I get talked to is terrible. I know Jay being in the kind of the gun space, you see it. Like, men can be, they're assholes to each other. They're really bad. And the mansplanation and shit, that's real. And it's very alive and well. And chauvinism and misogyny in the gun space. In fact, another writer, I write for Bearing Arms, and another writer for Bearing Arms actually a male ended up writing an article about the misogyny in the gun space after seeing how I was treated. He's like, oh my God, I had no idea. He says, I've heard stories. So I went and talked to another girlfriend in the industry, in the hunting, sporting side of it. And she said, you know, some of the stories that she shared, I'm like, oh, it's very real, like the way we're treated. He wrote an article about it.
That's
based on this.
amazing.
This is
great.
it's that
I
bad.
love that.
And this is why it's important for you to keep sharing your story despite that. But more importantly, for men like Jay or other men that are listening, when you see those stupid comments, the woman hating comments or the mansplaining comments or the lectures, especially with somebody, you know, as Angela becomes more proficient with guns, she'll start talking more about it. And then you'll get the men she doesn't know what she's talking about, or he'll have to, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Call them out on that. And again, so it goes back to this whole thing, right? You're not going to change the mind of the asshole that's making the comments. You're not, right? It's not going to happen. But how many countless women will see a man calling out another man and holding him accountable for his shitty behavior? And that's going to say to her, oh, okay, so they're not all like this. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. And sometimes, and I can forget too, right? And my platform isn't nearly as large as y'all's. And so I know that I can forget. It's easy to forget that while we see some of the impact that we have tangibly, how much of having a social media platform has an intangible impact on people, and especially in the firearm space.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you saying all of that. That's a really good perspective and message for me to think about, and makes so much sense.
You have a story now, honey, and you're going to continue to have a story.
We're talking about storytelling. So absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. I also know that I really appreciate when other men jump in and stand up for, because I get a lot of trolling and hate on social media in general around whatever variety of things. So I always appreciate when people jump in, and I totally agree with all of that as well. So yeah, I'm really thankful for all of this. That was so nice. Oh, I also just wanted to say another thing that came to mind was, you know, I had lived in New York City for the past 13 years. And I just recently moved back.
Good for you.
And so it does make me think about how unsafe I felt in New York. And I had over 13 years, so many terrifying experiences. And
imagine how much bad it's getting ready to get.
And I couldn't even get mace in New York. So I had to get it in Massachusetts just to be able to carry it. So I did have it, but I wasn't really allowed to have it.
Yeah.
And I really left recently because of all the years. It got really bad and I was feeling really unsafe in the subway, so many incidents. And yeah, with Mom Donnie decriminalizing assault and all these things, I'm just like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what's wild about it, is you have the same people that are demanding gun control that are also decriminalizing rape. And like in the city of Seattle, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, and this is prior to the nut job that the woman who's never, I don't know if you know anything about the new Seattle mayor, who's never had a job ever. And she's 42 years old. Her parents have been supporting her and paying for her daycare and paying all of her bills. And she just became the mayor with this multi-billion-dollar budget, which is just wild to me. But, you know, she's decriminalizing a bunch of other stuff right now. But 4 years ago, Jay Inslee, when he was the governor there, or excuse me, the mayor, I don't know who the mayor was there at that time. It wasn't Bruce. Anyway, it doesn't matter. If a woman is raped and she calls 911, law enforcement does not respond to rape calls there anymore. They don't have the resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I used to live in the Seattle Tacoma area, and crime was out of control there. Like,
well, you were down Lewis McCourt. Were you down at Fort Lewis?
Yeah, I actually lived in Lacey, but
I was in Paulsville.
Yeah, like a lot of the people that I served with or whatever lived in Seattle and Tacoma area. And if you just even parking out on the street, your car was almost guaranteed. Like if you parked out like 2 or 3 days in a row, your car was almost guaranteed to get broken into. It's out of control there, like just completely nuts. Like it's stupid. The laws, like I like she was talking about decriminalizing stuff. Oh my God, if they get any worse there, it's gonna be
it's coming.
It's gonna be like Escape from New York, like literally, like it's so nuts there. Like
Angela did.
Well, people were
and
talking
a lot of
about,
people
like,
were gonna, yeah.
well, people are talking about like the riots and stuff, the anti-ICE riots and stuff. Man, that shit's been going on there for years. Like the Mayday, like they've been busting out window. Like it's crazy there. Like
Portland, the Pacific Northwest is. Oofda. So the gentleman that you remember during the mostly peaceful protests in 2021 and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to dwell on this because I'm not trying to make it a thing, but everybody saw the man that was killed on the street in Portland, shot point blank in the heart. That he was a very dear friend of mine, and a lot of people are like, well, he shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been this. He was literally walking home. He had done some security for a Trump rally that had come to town. Was peripheral, wasn't involved in the rally. He was there as he was hired to come in and do some security for speakers or something. And he lived downtown Portland. He was walking home, and this guy from Antifa shot him. And it was and people don't realize, to Jay's point. My point with that, his name was Jay. He went by Jay, literally the letter J. His name was Aaron, but he went by the letter J.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the people don't realize, I think, unless you lived up there, how long that it's really been going on up there. And we lived there. My husband and I left in 21, and I still own real estate up there. I own commercial real estate, but, and every time I go back, it gets worse and worse. And the thing about it is the attitude, and this is something to take away. This is kind of a natural progression of our conversation is, you think, and I see this all the time, in Texas, you guys are on notice because y'all are going to flip and you don't know it, or you guys are in denial about that shit. And this is it, right? For years it was, oh, that's in Seattle. That's we don't need to worry about that over here. Oh, that's in King County. We don't need to worry about that. Oh, that's in Seattle and Tacoma. We don't need to worry about that. Oh, that's in King County and Pierce County. I'm like, do you guys not listen to yourselves? Like you guys keep moving the goalpost because that's what's going to happen. And sure enough, now Spokane is flipped, right? That was the whole thing in Eastern Washington. Oh, Eastern Washington's red. We don't need to worry about that. Guess what? It's not anymore. Where I lived in Kitsap County, which has 3 military bases. 3. One is a contractor base, one is a submarine base, and the other is a aircraft carrier base. You would think very red. Nope, not anymore. So it's all it takes is that denial. Right? That cognitive, like, it's never going to happen here. It's going to. And if you don't stop it before the cancer spreads, it's going to. And that's what Texas is seeing right now. Texas is in a world of hurt right now. And Texans are still like, and I'm half Texan on my mom's side is always the joke. My mom's from Midland, Odessa. Well, Midland, Odessa, they're having people protesting ICE. And they're like, well, we don't put up with that right here. I'm like, they literally are doing it right now, bro. Like, here's a fucking video of it. Are you retarded? Like, come on, man. Like it is going to happen there. And if you don't stop it, man, it's going to keep going. And it's unfortunate, we are lucky here in Georgia that even the Democrats don't mess. We every so often, and we have 2 gun control bills this session out. One of them is absurd, but the reality is the one that's really absurd, that's not the red flag law, is being produced by a guy that's wanting to run for governor. So it's a virtue signal because typically speaking, for the most part, with some exceptions, even the Democrats know not to mess with guns here in Georgia. They tend to be pretty good about, or they are all gun owners themselves, right? Oh yeah, there's a little spoiler alert, Republicans and conservatives watching this. There are a lot of pro-gun Democrats and liberals out there.
Yeah.
I want them all. Arm everybody.
Well,
you get a gun. Everybody gets a gun.
You've definitely done a lot of advocacy for that here today, I would say. I think it's been really powerful. I've enjoyed it so much. I'm so appreciative of both of you being here with your personal stories and experience and just really touching, meaningful stuff. And it's really been so informative. And I'm so, in awe of both of you. And I appreciate you so much, your kindness, your generosity, your willingness to help me and teach me. And with all of this, it means so much. And
it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see you on this journey. And Thank you for the link. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Let me ask you one question, because the host never gets asked this question, I feel like. What's been your biggest takeaway from this?
Oh, from today's conversation?
Yeah. Let me put it back on you.
Well, you have been asking me. Yeah, you have been asking
in a good
me.
way. What is your biggest takeaway? What do you feel like was the most of our conversation today between Jay and the three of us? What has impacted you the most?
I mean, I just really like hearing the personal stories, like, and how you've been able to change people's minds. I think, kind of changing the narrative and dismantling some of these messages and myths and misconceptions, I think is just so important. So I just, some of what you said about, the woman who had to learn because she has to protect her husband now, like those kind of things to me are really, really touching and meaningful. Like I love hearing those personal stories. And then it kind of makes me then think about my own life and how it could apply to my own life. And it lights more of a fire. It ignites me more to think that why this should be important to me in my life because of hearing about those stories. So I'm really thankful for, and your own, like, I didn't know your story. And that was really, devastating. And I feel terrible that you had to go through that, but
had I not gone through it, I wouldn't be here today with you.
Exactly. And I totally see that. And I'm really in awe of you and inspired by that. So, and it really does empower me to then, and others to be like, I can be strong too. Like I can fight, you
can do this.
Things too. Exactly.
And you know what? I won't let you fail. When I come down there and I work with you and we get you out there, if you do what I tell you to do, I'll keep you safe and I will not let you fail.
And I 100% believe that. And so for me too, that's the other big takeaway is that you have made me feel more confident and safe.
Yay!
In this chapter. Good. So I really appreciate that. So both of you, just making me feel more at ease and like, okay, I can do this.
Oh, that's right. There's a guy here with us. Sorry, I forget. Hi, Jay.
Well, both of your personal stories, because Jay.
Well, I don't want to mansplain, but I think what you're going to come to find as you kind of embark on this, I think that you're going to come to find that there's a community, right? There's a community spirit around this, and people are going to come out of the woodwork to help you on this journey. They're going to help you. They're going to, like Kerry, to train you or whatever. Like it's really about like, I don't know. It's like a preservation thing. Like I want people to be safe. I want communities to be more safe, and I care about my country. And so I think you're going to come to find a lot of that people are willing to help you. People are supportive of you and the things that you're doing. And it's all positive from my perspective.
Yeah. I have something to share. I know that you're wanting to wrap this up, but I literally just got a text message from, she cracks me up. She's all, hey, it's your favorite lesbian. She and her wife came in. I ended up with a class that had 3 lesbian couples in it. I'm like, did you guys put me in a Facebook group? Who's getting the toaster for trying to work with me, right? It was a joke. Like, and not that I don't have lesbians in my classes, because I do all the time. But to have 3 couples at one time was just in one class.
Especially if that's not your normal experience, and you're like, this is a little different.
I take 12 students in my class, and literally half of them were married couples that were women. And again, it was great. But she literally just texted me. I'm going to summarize it. She came to class, and this is the thing. This is why we provide everything. Most women won't come to class. They want to learn first before they I shouldn't say it's unusual, but it's not typical to see a woman get the gun first and then come. Usually they want to come to class and then go, because that's just how we learn, right? Sure. We're more detail oriented, where men are like, let's buy it and go blow shit up. Women are like, no, wait a minute. How does this work? Let's do this then, but literally just right now got the text. It's your favorite lesbian. I just want you to know that what's got 2 thumbs and just applied for their permit and bought their first gun, this girl. And she said, I was more anti-gun than my wife, and you have completely converted me. And then she just sent another one as we were talking, and it said, and I may have to buy the whole Steam gun. So that's right. So that is my mission. I feed on that. Right. I live for that. And when I want to quit, when I want to give up, when I'm done with the bullshit, because this industry is full of a lot of bullshit. It's women like you. It's women like that that keep me going and help me remember that the mission isn't about the bullshit that's out there online. It's not about the assholes in the comments. It's not about the people that want to shut me up. It's about Angela. It's about Lauren. It's about little Jackie that weighs 80 pounds. That's now her husband's protector, and making sure that they have the tools that they need to protect themselves and their families. And that's what keeps me going. So I am thrilled to be part of this journey with you. And oh yeah, Jay, you're great too. So
We're part of this
actually,
journey
Jay,
together
you're
now.
awesome. You're awesome,
Sure.
Jay. And I've had fun here with you, giving you a little bit of a hard time. And I don't think what you said was mansplaining at all. I think it was absolutely relevant to the conversation.
Well, we're forever connected on this journey and in life. So please, before I forget, let everyone know where they can find you. Yeah.
If you want to find my work, not my shit posting. If you want my shit posting, that's on X, and that's the real underscore.
Tell them all of it, whatever.
The real underscore SNS, I think I am, or the real underscore SNS. Stilettos and Shotguns, Kerry Slone. But if you want to find my work, wethefemale.org. You can find that on Facebook and Instagram, We the Female _official on Instagram, We the Female on Facebook. I will answer your DMs, but if you need a question or you need financial aid for help, I recommend emailing me, because we can miss DMs. And are you not getting notices? I'm missing notices, by the way, in my DMs on X. Are you not getting some notice? Like sometimes I'm not getting notifications, so I don't know what's going on there. But
I'm having that problem.
I'm having it happen on there and on Instagram, where I'm like, somebody sent me a message 2 weeks ago and it literally just showed up as new today. It was weird. But anyway, email me directly instead of going through my website at wethefemaleofficial@gmail. And if you need financial aid, if we can't get you into one of my classes, I'm going to be in Texas in end of April. I'm going to be in Arizona the first weekend of May. I'll be in Washington State 2 weekends in April. Then I'll be in New Hampshire. And that's as far as I've gotten. And I know Illinois is going to be in there at some point as well.
Wow.
Coming up, these are the states I like teaching. Yeah. So if you need financial aid, you need a class, reach out to me. We will help you. If you are a range owner, or you work at a range and you want to bring a We the Female free training to your area, same thing. You can reach out to me there. We are a 501c4. I'm a nonprofit. I don't get paid. I'm blessed to be in a position. I don't get paid to do what I do. So if you are so inclined, you believe in my work as well, you can go onto Venmo, Stilettos and Shotguns, or onto the website, wethefemale.org, and donate. 100% of every dollar that comes in goes directly to our mission. And most of it, sometimes I have to buy supplies, but usually it all goes to the financial aid for women that can't afford training. So because nobody should ever be forced to not get training to defend their lives because they can't afford it.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for everything that you do, for being here, for all of the information. Yeah, it's been incredible. Jay, you guys see his handle, follow Jay, support Jay. Jay, you got some shows going on this week?
Yeah, I got one tomorrow. We're just gonna
yeah, you know.
Yeah, we're gonna probably talk politics or something like that. You know,
I love it. I love talking politics.
Yeah. Nothing crazy.
There's always a lot to talk about, right?
There
Never ending material.
100%. And that's the truth, especially with X.
Well, again, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm so grateful. This has been absolutely a joy. Like I said, I'm like a sponge. It was so much helpful, important information for everyone, myself and the entire audience, the people who will play this back, people who will see the clips from it. So yeah, I thank you both so much. And Kerry, we'll keep in touch, and I hope to see you soon.
Very soon. You pick a weekend, one of these next few weekends. You pick it between now and the end of April, and I will drive down there and get you trained.
Appreciate you so much. We'll figure it out. Whether you come here, I'll come there. Either way, whatever, we'll figure it out. Again, thank you so much for your kindness and generosity. Everybody, please follow them, show them the love, send her money for this amazing.
Thank you. Send it to the financial aid fund, not to me.
Yes, but for the amazing causes, plural, because it's really multifaceted. But again, we'll talk soon. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you for the lane. I appreciate you. Y'all take care.
Much love, guys. Good night.
Good night.
And to the audience, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Couldn't do it without you. I really appreciated the chat, everybody weighing in. I hope you were taking notes, or you can just replay it back if you go to the YouTube. You'll find it on the YouTube. Subscribe. You can follow it back. Play it back on all the things, and get your notepad ready. And so much incredible information. Such a great conversation. Probably changed some minds, I hope, because there was a lot there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we will be back for Bold Voices on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I will have special guest Brandon Straka on Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Bold Voices, you don't want to miss it. Thank you again so much for sharing the stream, for liking, subscribing, all that jazz. And yeah, man, could have kept that conversation going all night. It was, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night. All the love. Stay bold. Talk to you so soon. Good night. See you Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern.